Hi everyone, Vanessa Hobel here. I think you kind of know that. I thought it would be a good idea to talk about psychic abilities, sensitivity, clairaudience, clairvoyance, all those clairs that are out there. There's a whole buttload of them. Um, to kind of, get the subject going about where do they come from? Where do we think we got them from? Do we have any personal experiences that we can link to them? And I'm real interested in that because there are a lot of theories floating around out there. Um, some think it's divine intervention. Some think that if there's any head trauma or near-death experiences or anything like that, that it will just kind of open you up and make it, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Make you more susceptible to the information that's out there. And all of them are great theories. They really are. I think that it could be any one of them or a combination of all of them or a couple of them or whatever. It's just learning yourself and trying to piece together how you came about in this way. Uh, I can say, I figured I don't know what all of y'all are thinking out there is where yours came from. So I figured the best thing I could do is just tell you my story and what I feel might be responsible for it. Um, had kind of a crazy life, I guess you could say. Um, had quite a few close calls. Let's face it, people, I'm accident prone and have been that way my entire life. Uh, I know that a lot of this ran in my family. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to have those same things happening for you. So for myself, I believe what really kind of not exacerbated it, but solidified it that I was going to be able to do certain things was when my family lived in Arizona, and we lived in Tucson a long, 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 long time ago. And I'm going to be 45 in, what is today? It's March 2nd or 3rd, something like that. Well, the 14th. I'm going to be 45 on the 14th. So I'm pretty proud of that. Like I said, I am accident prone as fuck. So the fact that I am still here, yay. um, but while we lived in Arizona, I apparently, any accident you could think of, I've had it. You know, uh, when I say we, me, I think there was four of them, four major ones. Stuck my head through a huge fish tank. My head, the noggin, this thing right here, through a fish tank. The glass and everything. Okay, just right there. Um, was at the bottom of the 10-foot deep pool. Ended up there. Had to be pulled out. Um, Jumping on a bed, I guess, I fractured my skull. So I have a scar, quite a prominent scar at my hairline, probably about an inch long or so. Um, it still hurts to this day. Isn't that crazy? I was 2. So almost 43 years ago, and it still hurts. Um, and I got my head stuck in a German Shepherd's mouth. My head, whole thing. Okay, I still have the scars underneath my chin and all around the back of my head. Now the poor doggy. Okay, and I love dogs. This did not make me fear animals at all. At least not that I can recall. But she had had hip surgery. She was a German Shepherd, which is still one of my favorite animals. And she had had hip surgery. And for whatever reason, the owner thought that it was a good idea to have her tied to the playground equipment during the day right outside his apartment. And from what I have been told, because obviously I mean, my memory is poo, y'all. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, I've had so many head injuries that it's my memory is not good. Um, that was my dog, yeah, my little cha cha. So I saw her little butt go around the corner. Um, but from what I've been told, my oldest brother had to pull me out of her mouth. I guess all the kids were over there petting her, and she was real loving. And so I guess, I toddled my way over there to pet her too and laid my hand right on the stitches. And so she did the only thing she could. I cannot blame her for it, because I imagine how I would feel, if the situation was turned around. And she turned her head and put my whole head in her mouth. And I think it was my oldest brother that was able to get her to release me. But it punctured everything under here and in the back. As far as the fractured skull, I wasn't aware of it until I was 20 or so, that it had done irreparable damage, and I actually have scar tissue on my brain. And I found this out because I started having seizures, and they're petit mal seizures, I think is what you call them. And it's kind of where I zone out a little bit, which that's actually, it just occurred to me, that's a really important thing. So let's hold on to that thought. I zone out for a bit, but not long. It doesn't ever seem to be too terribly long that I'm aware of. And then I'm back. Go figure. And we found that out because I had one apparently at the top of my dad's stairs. And so I ended up at the bottom of a flight of stairs in pretty bad shape. Hush, cha-cha. Not right now, baby. So I think that that's kind of interesting, because I had always had some type of ability, but I don't think they really came into play until after my grandmother's death. Not that I'm aware of. And that was when I was 2, which was kind of around all this time. And it's interesting because I was born on her birthday, and then she passed on February 5th before I was to turn 2. So yeah, right around that time. All of that is kind of in that same time bracket that all of these, all of this stuff started happening, and then I started seeing things and hearing things and knowing things. But even though I did all that, and even though I had some aspect of it all that time, it did really kind of blow up in my late 20s, early 30s is when it kind of really started to go crazy. And things just started becoming more crisp and sharp and vivid and accurate and everything else. So I can't help but wonder if the onset of the seizures due to the scar tissue, because it took time for that scar tissue to build up. It wasn't something that's going to happen overnight. So it makes me wonder if the two aren't connected. Now, do I feel that the powers that be play a certain part in it? I guess kind of, yeah. My son's not here, so I'm going to have a cigarette, okay? So, y'all be sweet, don't yell at me. But it very well could. Very well could. I don't want to appear conceited or anything and think that I'm any more special than anybody else, and that they would take the time to do that, because I have absolutely no way of knowing if that's accurate. I don't have any way of knowing whether or not I've been quote unquote, blessed in that way. But the other stuff, I do know. Those are actual facts. And it really gets me to wondering, and then you hear about people who have had near-death experiences who talk about how they had almost an opening up of themselves after that happened, whether it's just in, you know, empathic abilities, whether it's just in an understanding of life, whether it is psychic or sensitive abilities. But you hear that a lot. And when you're somebody like that has those abilities, you tend to gravitate towards the paranormal field and anything that is involved in it. And you put yourself out there, and it makes you kind of a target, and that's okay. You know, a big flipping bullseye on my head I have for years. So what you gonna do? But I think it's a topic of conversation that it would do well to be discussed. I know from what I've read that they've done, you know, certain testing and everything medically, just to see if there is any type of medical reason for people to be this way. And from what I understand, that hasn't been significant. There hasn't been a single moment or person or experiment that has been able to pinpoint if that is accurate. You know, if there is a medical reason, if maybe there's, I don't know, different, what is it, neurons or whatever, you know, sparking in the brain, or what I don't think so. So if anyone out there has that information, by all means, in the comments underneath here, share. If I haven't seen it, I would absolutely love to. But it's, what I would like to see happen is people start to discuss those things that led up to them being able to do the things that they can now do. You know, it could be something as simple as a death in the family of somebody they were very close to, and that inability to let go kind of broadened their mind. I believe in the 60s, the government had used psychedelics and tested them on people, and that is the one thing I do know. There was a very distinct difference in their perception of the world and their understanding of it and how they viewed it after than it was before. And some of those people who were tested even claimed to be able to see things that they would have not been able to see or comprehend before that particular testing. So that's an interesting avenue to look down, you know. Not that I expect anybody to put anything like this on here, but, you know, if you've ever tried anything, did that open you up? You know, I'm not asking you to admit that, okay, at all. But it's an interesting thing to think on with yourself, or talk about in private conversation. I really do believe for myself that I believe the head injuries played a big part in it. I really do. And I don't want to say that I got rewired, but I think when you have something that affects your brain, you know, whether it's lack of oxygen to the brain, being at the bottom of the pool, or scar tissue on the brain from a head injury, or ramming your noggin through a fish tank, or having your head stuck in a dog's mouth, you know, all four canines jammed in there, you know. I think I think it's something to consider, you know, that might be partially responsible for the lack of walls that we tend to put up as we get older. Because, I mean, we all kind of see things when we're little, we know that, you know. You know, what people believe is make-believe friends really aren't. You know what I mean. We've all been there. But it makes me wonder. It really does. It makes me wonder. I know that people who have lived in families that were extremely closed up, that did not talk about this stuff. It did not exist, so they grew up not believing in its existence. When they had a particular instance happen to them, um, even if it isn't physical trauma, if it's psychological trauma, that opened them up. I know quite a few people who can actually lay claim to that. And that's another interesting aspect of it. If you have been through something horrific, you know, um, not necessarily a near death experience, but an extreme emotional trauma, whether it's PTSD or you were a victim and survivor of violence, did any of those things bring you more to the forefront of being able to do this type of stuff? And I have to tell you, I mean, at being, I hate to put it this way because I'm not a victim, but I was raped. And I think that in conjunction with what with my injuries and everything, I think it all plays a part, especially when it comes to empathy. If you've ever been in a situation where your faith, everything, is challenged completely due to brutality, and you overcome it, and you get past it, you can't help but feel the emotions of other people, happiness, sadness, anything. For me, the worst is shame. I cannot stomach somebody's shame. It hurts me. It hurts my heart so bad. Even in a movie, in a movie, if somebody gets really embarrassed in a movie, I can't take it. I can't take it. If they feel shame, I can't take it. It just breaks my heart. And that has to come from that. That has to come from what I've experienced on a personal level. I can't tie that to anything else, because it's so deep. It's so vivid. It's the worst feeling ever. I just want to climb through the TV and make it all better. And you can't do that, You can't do that with real life people sitting next to you half the time. So how the hell can you do it with somebody on TV? But I think that plays a big part in it. And I'm just curious. I'm just throwing this out there just to see what everybody thinks on that. I mean, what are your viewpoints on it? Can you pinpoint where you acquired certain skills? Have you noticed as you've started to accept them, have your abilities grown? Because damn, yeah, big time. Even ones I never wanted. I never wanted to see dead people. I used to tell people, you know what, I'm fine just how I am. That's one I don't want. I don't need it. And yeah, that decision was taken out of my hands. Thank heavens it's not every day. Can't tell you how happy I am that it's not every day. But I do believe, all kidding aside, that all of those events led up to the way that I am now, and the way that my brain works, and the way that I'm able to communicate or see certain things or hear certain things or whatnot. I do believe all of that is tied together, and I'm just honestly curious what everybody else thinks of that. Or do you just believe you're blessed? And if you do, you know what? I'm not hating on you. Because there's probably plenty of people who can do these. Excuse me. Why do I get on here and burp? I don't even know why. But there's probably plenty of people out there who can do this that have never had something like that happen to them. And that's okay. I am definitely not judging. I am just really, really, really wondering if there's a pattern. And if there is a pattern, how can we document that? How can we, I don't know, throw it up on a grid and kind of see how it works? If it's, this certain part of the brain that was damaged, or or, you know, your emotional capabilities does, you know, because of what you went through, or emotional trauma, you know, got the tar beat out of you, domestic violence, anything. Like myself, you know, rape victim, survivor, not victim. Um, can you kind of pinpoint it, you know, and start to tie things together and see if a certain activity helped to unlock this ability, and, you know, with certain emotional trauma helped unlock this ability, or are you just lucky and just got all that stuff without having to go through any of that other crap. Anyway, y'all know on here that there is a place where you can leave comments. Feel free to put your story or your comments in there so everybody can see. I'd like to get a discussion going about this. I think it would be really interesting just to kind of see where everybody stands on it. So I hope you participate. I hope you have fun with it. But give it some good thought, you know. To me, it's important for you to know where you're going. You got to know where you came from, and you got to know where this came from. So, I don't know. I hope you do it. Anyway, I think that was all I was going to say on that. I hope I'm not missing nothing. If I did, y'all will tell me. Okay? Love y'all. Kisses.